I'm delighted to welcome today one of Brandywine Oak's most accomplished advisors, Lisa Quadrini, to today's discussion. As our in-house authority on philanthropy and generational wealth planning, Lisa will share her insights on how to build, preserve, and thoughtfully transfer wealth across generations. So Lisa, here's the question. How do families start to think about their philanthropic plan? And where do they even begin with this conversation?
Michael, thank you very much for asking the question. It's so much fun to work with families to get to really understand what's important to them in regards to establishing what the legacy they want to leave. And it all starts with the eldest generation, which is typically where the wealth is created. And then you want to educate the younger members of their family in regards to what's important to their values. Because typically, sometimes the parents and children and grandchildren have totally different goals and objectives.
And there's often a disconnect, right, from the oldest generation down to the kids and grandkids.
Correct. And so the best way to start it is when we start with tax planning, we try to articulate to clients that are especially in a high net worth tax bracket, how do I pause and determine what the amount is that I want to actually support to a philanthropic goal? And then the next drill down is, who are the organizations?
That's a great topic to bring up, Lisa. So a lot of our clients have wealth beyond their means. They have wealth beyond their lifetime. Let's put it that way. How do they start to think about, they want to get more involved philanthropically? Where do they even begin that conversation? Or how do they start to think about the causes they want to support?
So that's a very interesting topic, because what we find is until you actually ask that specific question, people don't really have a plan.
Right.
So we all have a plan on when we want to retire or where we want to travel to or how we want to help our children. But we don't pause and take a look at what that philanthropic giving looks like while you're living versus when you pass away. And typically, you're able to leverage your giving while you're living to assist a nonprofit to then establish that continued giving by your family members.
And do you find it's helpful to often involve the kids in your philanthropic plan, your strategy?
So it is. So once you establish what that big picture looks like with the parents or the grandparents, then typically the best execution is to have a family meeting.
Okay, love that. Okay.
So the family meeting is a very interesting topic because you want to be broad in regards to not defining specific dollar amounts, but it's really articulating what's important.
All around values, I guess. Okay.
Exactly.
Got it.
So it's do we want to support education? Do we want to support a health and welfare goal? Do we want to keep it local? Do we want to do it national? So it's actually interesting to sort of do mission statement by generation and then determine where the need is.
Got it. Okay. And so this is really not getting granular in terms of specific details. I think we find a lot of times clients or families, the kids may not be aware of how successful mom and dad are, right?
Correct. And for the children, it's better off for them to have their parents make the gift, because obviously from a tax planning standpoint, it's more advantageous to have the dollars come from that higher income generation.
Sure.
So the next piece is just to have that child or grandchildren try to articulate like what's important. And it's a really interesting conversation, because a lot of the times parents and grandparents don't even realize what's important to that family member.
Makes sense. Can we talk about how families can give not just with their resources and assets, but they can give their time as well?
So a lot of the times we all look at like it's a financial commitment, but typically organizations need a lot of infrastructure. So typically what will happen is you'll be engaged to be asked to be a board member of a nonprofit.
Of course.
Typically that engagement includes some financial commitment, but really, the nonprofit is looking for your expertise to leverage, whether it be legal advice, whether it be financial, whether it be audit controls. And the power of that participation is exponential. And where we're seeing most of the growth is technology. So driving social media or philanthropic needs and educating people on the purpose.
Got it. Okay, so also using maybe your career skill set or reapplying that as a board member. Okay, I love that.
So I have a specific example, which is actually interesting that we did over the course of the last couple of months. There was a charity that was identified. It's called Healthy Start in Florida. And basically they had a need for mothers to educate new moms that don't have the resources. So they created a program based on giving from one of our clients that they were willing to make a commitment to a specific project. So what the executive director and the team did at the nonprofit is they actually created a one-day program for 50 mothers and had a Mother's Day celebration that was both educational, that was dovetailed with a social worker at the hospitals,
Got it.
then also provided them with a jump start to what they needed to become a
Fantastic.
mother when that child came home from the hospital.
That's incredible. That's by using your expertise, to your point.
And so now what they want to do is so successful, they're actually considering taking that program across a state. And that executive director is going to work with other peers of theirs within the state to try to repeat that platform. And
It's amazing. That's what it's all about. That's a pretty great example.
it's fun.
Yeah,
But that's
great.
fun because then the power of what they send to you in regards to this is the results and this is the impact, that allows your gift to keep on giving.
Right.
So
That's incredible.
the
That's a
ultimate.
great example. One strategy we've had success with across the practices is using your Fidelity charitable account, your donor advised fund, and kind of carving out some of the donor advised fund dollars for your kids. Can you kind of explain how that works, Lisa?
The donor advised fund is such a great tool because it's easy, it's trackable.
Yep.
You can look at the history, but we're able to then carve out a piece for a child or a grandchild to say what charities are important to you. It hears your ability to use basically like a debit card to support a nonprofit. And it allows them to feel in control, even though they didn't have to financially fund the contribution.
So I guess, for example, if mom and dad have $100,000 in a Fidelity charitable account, they can carve out $5,000 for their son or daughter to donate that $5,000 to whatever charities they care about.
Correct.
That's terrific.
And the best time, typically a lot of the times we take a look and have that conversation is during Thanksgiving, because people are always around during Thanksgiving.
Right.
So it's a natural to say, how do we play it forward to give thanks?
How do we give back?
Correct.
Yep, love that.
So if you tend to your peers within your family, sort of feed up amongst each other. So it's actually a fascinating conversation.
It makes a lot of sense, though. So, Lisa, how does an individual or family partner with the actual nonprofit organization to figure out like what their needs actually are?
So that's a really good question, because really that's a changing dynamic on an annual basis. And now, especially with some of the funding being, sort of challenged at the government level,
Right.
these charities really have to dig into what specific programs are important to them, but then also to be able to articulate that to a potential donor. So typically what we do is we try to identify what the charity is, say what level of impact you want to have on the charity. Is it for 1 year or is it for multiple years? And then sort of drill down to what values are important to them in regards to programming or whom they'd like to support.
Got it.
And that allows the nonprofit to actually be a business partner in a way, to say, okay, here's my mission statement. Here's how I want to execute. And then they actually come back to the donor or client and show the results. And typically that program will be continued to be funded and actually taken to the next level.
Okay. Makes a lot
So
of sense.
look, it's a win-win for everyone because they see the results.
Yeah.
But the charity actually has an income flow of donation support that continues to grow.
Makes a lot of sense. And for clients that want to give larger amounts to specific organizations, can you talk through like the pledging process? How's that work? You do a pledge, I'm going to give a couple $100,000 over 5 years or what have you.
So that's a really, I think that's a great question, because a lot of charities are now saying, instead of going back every year to say, what would you like to do to support us? They're looking at, will you please provide us with a 3 to 5 year commitment?
Yep.
And so basically what you're doing is you're saying, okay, I'm willing to commit let's say $50,000 over 5 years. So that's a $10,000 a year commitment. But that's important to the nonprofit because, quite frankly, they know they can plan a
They can
program.
count on that from you. Okay.
Correct.
Got it. Okay. Helps them from a budgeting standpoint.
Exactly. But then it also helps, the client to really think about like, okay, where do I want to give? Do I want to help my university with a special scholarship for a STEM need?
Okay. Okay. Got it.
That because a lot of these nonprofits have a certain bucket if they're education versus if they are in health and human services.
Got it. Okay. Makes a lot of sense. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you so much, Lisa, for your time and insights today. If you have any further questions, please feel free to reach out to your relationship manager at Brandywine Oak.